book the Hammer Hansen. All right, he's in the ring. We can run. Oh, look, there's a subway rat. I've never seen one of those before. I don't know where it went, but GLM 5.3 has been released, and this is quite exciting because beyond just being the second big open weight drop of the day, this is a very, very powerful model that is on par with state-of-the-art closed source models, and this seems to be a pretty potent jump in capability over its predecessor, which was, of course, GLM 5.2. Now, something I like to see just out the gate about this is it does seem very not compatible, but very comparable to Kimi K3 in terms of scores and benchmarks. However, this is a significantly smaller model. While it is still a bit too big for like 99.9% of folks to be able to run locally, even while quantized, it is exciting because it's a sub-trillion parameter model that can trade blows with frontier state-of-the-art models across a number of different domains. Now, while this model is not currently available to download, as we can see the Hugging Face link is coming soon for the weights to be released, they do say in a couple of weeks additionally to this, following some more like safety and just proper preparation, those will be released, and I have no reason to doubt that they will in fact land on Hugging Face. For some specific information about size, we can look at the predecessor because they do mention that scaling post-training is all that they did for GLM 5.3, and it does seem like that went rather well, especially considering some of these capability leaps between this and 5.2. This is a 753 billion parameter mixture of experts model, and I do believe it is around 40 billion active. So again, a pretty big model. However, compared to a lot of the models here, well, at least the only other one that we know specifically the size of, this is significantly smaller. So Kimi K3 is a 2.8 trillion parameter model, and this is under or around 750 billion. So to have performance that adequately can match that in a much smaller footprint is really like the ultimate goal. Now, this announcement post is pretty light in terms of what they say about the model. It just shows some benchmarks, and then we have some more intricate and verbose benchmarks here across a number of additional models. Things like Qwen 3.8 Max, which is pretty performant in and of itself. DeepSeek V4 Pro 0813, which the date right now is the 14th, so that model did just come out. It is nice to see the benchmarks of that as well. And again, that's a 1.6 trillion parameter model, and it does seem like this is edging that out in coding, which is pretty darn exciting. Now, something they mention here fairly prominently, which I do wonder if this could perhaps be twisted into some form of like fear-mongering against open models, and I do just want to honestly mention that because it was the first thing that came to mind when I did see this section of the announcement post. They just say that they introduced vulnerability discovery data in some of the additional post-training that they were performing to create this model, and basically they say that it quickly continued to develop these capabilities as training scaled. It didn't simply become better at identifying isolated flaws, it was reasoning across multiple stages of exploits, forming coherent plans for complete chains. They do also mention a bit just about the training process and perhaps some more technical bits of information there, as well as some API changes. Now, they mention here that disabling thinking is no longer supported by GLM 5.3. I can't definitively state, but I wonder if it was supported by GLM 5.2. Nonetheless, that is just something to take note of, as sometimes with the reasoning set to the highest, things can take quite a bit of time, and there was a benchmark showing that, although something I also do like to see is we can see here the average output tokens per task compared to 5.2. Even on the highest reasoning effort, that seems like a pretty substantial drop in output tokens, so hopefully some of the results don't take quite as long, which leads me into the next segment, which is how specifically we're going to be using this today. So I do have the GLM coding plan. This is the 5 times usage, and I basically think like I forgot to cancel this, but I believe in the meantime, it actually became 1, more expensive, and 2, I could have sworn I heard something a while back where they were actually pausing new signups. No, that may have been for Kimi. However, the point of this is I have this coding plan. I pay for this myself out of pocket, and it's apparently $65 per month right here. I do believe there's a bit of an increased usage allotment for the release of this model that was referenced down here if we scroll all the way down. Yeah, so through August 31st, I guess there's this 1.5 time limited quota boost, so that's good. And how we're going to be using this is through Zcode, which is their own coding application. It is very, very similar to OpenAI's Codex, or, well, Codex is now defunct, the official ChatGPT app, but it looks a lot like Codex, and honestly, I used this for the 5.2 test as well, and I absolutely loved it. It was really quite fantastic, so that's what we're going to be doing for today's test. Now, I have already, a while back, started the browser OS test with this, because I just figured I'd kick something off so we could just jump right into taking a look at the results. So with that, and before we go further, further, do feel free to subscribe so I can get to 75K and then 100K to get that plaque. And in 40 minutes and 48 seconds, we've received our browser OS v 2.7, which is the same except it includes that they need to have procedurally generated wallpapers with movement and an email client. These were suggestions made 2 videos ago by one commenter, so thank you for those because it's nice to change things up a bit. So let's take a look at it in our browser. All right, so far, I dig it. Let me turn the speaker on just in case. I don't see a little speaker icon there, but single file, 0 depths. All right, good. Minimize, unminimize, full screen, X. And we do have sound effects, so that's interesting. All right, the background's cool. It's definitely less hideous than the Quen 3.827B, which is the first one I've done the 2.7 test with. We do have the time in the bottom right, as well as a couple other, okay, next wallpaper, and then I would imagine that is toggle sounds. Now the big one. Is there a right click? Yeah, every big model is pretty much doing right clicks now, so make of that what you will. Ugh, we just got a new mail notification. Disgusting. Now, the first app here is, of course, the GTA clone, so we're going to jump right into that. I did just also want to look at the start menu without wasting further time. Let's check out OmniCity. All right, this is good. No moving effects, but space is to jump. Okay. This is competently put together. Simple, but all right. Can I enter this vehicle? Yeah, I can. Okay, there is no, ooh, okay, sounds of the engine. We have 3 stars right now. Let's see if we can get it to 5. Oh, nope, okay. Oh, so I did see a, I did see a police car chasing us. I had not, before this, seen that the folks we hit don't necessarily disappear. Uh-oh. Okay, busted. Fine 100, total cash 50, spawning back at the point. Not bad. Not bad at all. I would like a little bit of ability to cause problems without being in a vehicle, but it's okay. Still though, and this is crazy to say, the Quen 3.627B, so not the newest one, the oldest one now, or the older one, had a better walking like thing where the legs moved individually. Can we double hit? Okay, no we can't, but new mail from mom. So we're getting email notifications as well as part of the browser OS. All right, not bad. And the minimap looked good up there as well. Void Runner, obviously going to be some form of asteroid shooting game because for some reason, this is what they all choose. All right, this is good. I do like the fluidness of our ship. Okay, I think I just hit something that I was like a power up or something. So look at the engine glow there. Oh, we can also drive with the cursor. Cool. Are these like... Oh, okay, so we're not supposed to hit those. And, all right, share via mail Nexus. I'm just going to click it. To someone at somewhere. That's funny. Attach any file. Copy saved to the sent folder. And this brings us to our email thing. All right, there's a lot in here. Basically, it just made, like, meta references to the... Yes, Mom, I built an OS. It has a mail map app, so you can email me here. Nothing in spam. Only one in archive. Okay. Next up, files. And this brings us to our Notepad app. Save as file.txt. All right. Acceptable. The sound effects are actually not infuriating, which is not something they would normally infuriate me, is what I wanted to say. Help. Oh, wow. This is a very, very long list of potential commands. Let's just do the traditional, yes, matrix. Oh, okay. Not really as exciting as I'd hoped to see. We saw Notepad, synth. And it's even showing us the specific frequency of the keys. Not bad. Can we change the octave? No. Z and X to shift octave. Square. Sawtooth. And we have adjustable delay. Yeah, we do. Nice. Then finally, triangle. beautiful. All right, well done. Settings. All right, let's take a look at some of our other procedural wallpapers. Warp Starfield. Yep. Liquid light. Oh, okay. I was hoping for more of like a lava lamp aesthetic, but I guess that works too. Neon Horizon. Yeah, should have started with this. You might have gotten insane in the title. No, I do actually like this Aurora Flow look. Oh, look, the accent color actually changes the movable background as well. 24-hour clock is a selection. Wallpaper motion can be toggled on and off, and it actually saves where you pause it and then initiates it back from there. That's pretty cool. The final thing we did not take a look at is, of course, the special feature, which... Oh, so the special feature is just basically like more immersion and logs that have cross-app, like, logging and information that gets saved to this virtual file system. So essentially, when we were able to share or email our score of the GTA game, that was basically the special feature. Okay. Very competent. Next up, we're going to do our New York City skate simulator using C++. I have also appended to this prompt, and we'll probably just keep this do not use Raylib, assuming we're working with a bigger, more performant model like this. So this is the one that is essentially the same as the traditional self-contained C++ skate game we're used to. However, the map needs to be an early 2000s New York City block. All right, so after 38 minutes and 48 seconds, we've received our skateboarding game test. I noticed, and I had totally neglected to recall, that this model does not have vision by default, so it was not really able to just look at this visually, but it made itself a little script just to verify that all of the key presses and tricks worked. And then this has a tool built in using Z code that will just basically send an image somewhere and then give it a piece of feedback on whether or not the image includes what's needed. So just kind of one of the limitations of not having vision, but Z code, at least in this subscription and harness, seems to work around it well. Let's now take a peek at our... are you kidding me? This is just flat out bad. I'm going to be completely transparent here. This is worse than I expected by a significant amount. I am quite disappointed with this because Qwen 3.8, okay, I guess I have to temper my expectations because Qwen 3.8 Max is a 2.4 trillion parameter model, but it absolutely blew this away. This one, like, if I'd seen this from 3.827B, I would have been like, not bad. But from this, I'm overall rather disappointed in the just result here. I don't know why. Okay, cool. We can bail, and the tricks actually do work where the board is independent of the player. That's not often always the case. It does have pedestrians. It does have cars we can grind on, so it added a decent amount of things, and I noticed it was debugging like the half-pipe tricks here, which were pretty cool, but overall, I'm going to say that I am a bit let down by this result. I was expecting something significantly better. It is possible that maybe we'll come back to this, but I would like to move on and just try some more tests. I guess the only other thing is, can we go in the water? Okay, we can grind on the fountain, which is cool. And trick-wise, I mean, like, the tricks are decent. It's just, I don't know. I mean, let me know. Let me know down below what you think. No, I hate when people... hate when YouTubers talk like that, but I suppose in this specific scenario, it is a reasonable thing to say. So, not it. All right, so folks have mentioned that maybe it is time to include some new prompts that have not been able to make their way into the training data because they simply didn't exist prior to these tests. So that's exactly what we're going to do right here. So this is, I'm going to just read it all out so we can get familiar with this new test, and you can let me know if you like it or not. Let me know down below. No, but this is a wrestling game. Create a 1980s themed 3D wrestling game. The game should be at the level of quality one would see from a high-end indie game featuring a fun and engaging free play style. The game should begin with a start screen, procedural music, stylized elements, and a 3D orbiting of the ring with the start menu overlaid. There should be a simple toggle to turn the music on and off. The game loop is simple. The player will select one of 4 wrestlers to play as and begin. When the game begins, the player starts in the ring with 2 other wrestlers. The potential list of moves they can use, their names, effects, and implementation are up to you, but they must be triggered by the following key presses. And then I basically looked at the keyboard and picked like some random ones that were next to each other. The wrestler models should be realistic and have the attire one would see in an 80s wrestling ring. Interactive props are always a plus, but the specific implementation and theme remains open-ended beyond the instructions above. Happy building, go all out. So this will be just a fun new test, and I would imagine that this may be pretty darn funny, at least some models will probably make this hilarious, I would hope. All right, so after a total of whatever the addition of this number right here, this number right here, this number right here, and this number right here is, we do have our wrestling game titled Mega Slam 86. Now, this was really frustrating because it kept having network errors. Their service is not very reliable. It has not been throughout the entirety of the time I've used it, which is beyond today's test. It's in previous tests as well, so that is something that is a little frustrating. However, we did ultimately get a result right here, which does very much have an 80s aesthetic. So I did basically just get so enraged with this consistently quitting out that I ended up just going to bed. But now we're back. So apparently it is able to be like looked at here. So let's just take a peek. Here's Mega Slam 86. Oh my goodness. Buck the Hammer Hansen. Interesting how that one is just not... I'm just going to go with El Tigre. Oh, this is actually... I hope the lighting goes down. These are the two opposing wrestlers that we're going to be wrestling. Okay, this is us. So the big issue here is the lighting makes it impossible to see anything. And this model does not have vision. So I'm just giving it a description of the issue. I honestly don't know if lighting bloom is the correct way to describe what the problem is, but I just told that it blocks us being able to see any of the wrestlers or the ring. So hopefully after a number of the match views blown out, cut the light intensities, tone down the bloom, and drop the exposure a bit, then re-verify in the browser. Okay. Well, I liked what I saw so far. All right, that actually seemed to fix it really quickly, which makes me quite happy. So let me turn the speaker back on. We'll start a match. We'll go with the same El Tigre wrestler. Oh, wow. Okay. Turn that down. Buck the Hammer Hansen. All right. He's in the ring. There's a referee as well. Rocco Rebel. So these are the two wrestlers we're going to be fighting. And then this is us. We do also have more visibility into the crowd, and they're holding signs. All right, so, okay, that's me. Something is D, the Tiger Torpedo. Oh, no, that's O. This is... I think this is troubled, to be completely honest. Okay, we just got yeeted through the table. Oh, this is annoying. It could be really good, but like the people are not quite oriented properly. I understand it's wrestling. I'm just like spam clicking stuff. This is definitely one I'll be very interested to see the output from a number of different models. It's just, something's messed up. Look at the reflection, or if that's like a big screen showing it up there, that's actually pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, this is, press enter, pin him, okay? It's, unfortunately, that was like 80% there, and the 20% was the orientation. Still, it was a bit difficult to see. I think I'm gonna move on, but this is something to keep in the pocket, I guess. So I also did do the test of the 3D printable motor. This is the inline 6 RB26 engine. This is something that took around 33 minutes, so actually not too bad considering that it's taken longer to do some, I suppose, simpler HTML results. So this is interesting. It did do the job here, but it only gave us the CAD model. It didn't actually give us individual... Okay, so it's saying, I'm just rereading this. You have to open it, pick a part from the drop-down, press F6 to export the STL. Okay, so block. Now we're starting to get somewhere. This may be kind of in line. I'm just not used to ever seeing a result like this. Okay, now we're getting good. You know what I mean? That's a very, very decent turbo model compared to what I've seen so far in this test. So that's good. Okay, I'm so much more happy right now than I was a few minutes ago because it was just rendering one piece at a time here. So it's telling us that we need to basically export these plate. There we go. So this is the entirety of what it's created for us. And this is where things start to actually come together a bit. All right, not bad. I'm going to notice though that this is not really able to be printed without supports, especially because of this hanging piece right here. That would cause, like, it's not possible to print this specific thing without having a gigantic amount of supports between here and the top of this. Like, the cover looks good, clean, text is extruded well, and then we do have 6 individual things and an oil cap just to show us like how many cylinders there are. Even something like this, it's not really possible to print this without supports because of these little nubs that get extended beyond. Were those not there, it would have been more in line with it. So this was actually a pretty interesting summary of things that it found, because a lot of what we noticed, like, oh, this won't print because these nubs are going below the bed, or this is floating in midair, it also picked up on as well. So even if we don't have things specifically to print, we're actually going to have proper renders now in STL. So let's just take a look at these renders. That is a really, really stellar result, I would say, just seeing the render together for the first time. Really, the only thing, if I were to nitpick completely right now, is the turbos are maybe oriented in the wrong direction. Like, they're flat, but they should be kind of vertical. Though, if we look at all these parts now individually, this is definitely seemingly a better job. I do also want to check a couple of things that I know would have caused problems before. So let's take a peek at these STLs. One was in the block where it had that floating ledge kind of in midair. Now, I do see that it mentioned that it should be able to bridge this. So I guess that's possible, but still, I think that's a wide enough gap that generally you would probably see some form of support placed underneath this piece right here. So just keep that in mind as well. Excellent. So it did fix that completely. Before, this would have really had trouble and needed more support. This did a good job. It really did pick up on a lot of things we noticed. Some other ones were the little nubs, I believe, sticking down from certain elements. I don't know that the plenum was one of those, and it did fix those. So these had little nubs sticking out underneath them, and it did notice that and remedy them. So interesting. Even if I may have mistakenly told it like, this is seriously messed up, because I didn't realize that you had to individually select the parts, it ultimately ended up in producing a significantly better result. It does look very decent aesthetically, and even just like the pulleys and belts in the front of the motor and things like that, not bad. And it showed some pretty interesting capabilities just in terms of how it went about figuring out which parts need support. I was impressed with what I've seen right here. Overnight, I did also run the Slapis watch website, where it needs to create the beautiful website with the 3D watch render, a cinematic panning effect over it, and overall it's more of a test of front-end design and 3D modeling capability. So let's just open this in a browser and take a peek. Okay, we have a nice loading screen. Not bad. The one thing I'm seeing here that is a bit frustrating is that the straps are oriented in the wrong direction. Rendered live in your browser. I also can't really like go up and down with the mouse in terms of controlling the way the camera's panning, so it's a bit difficult to actually get a proper look at this. I'm going to scroll down and we'll see. Good. Whoa, okay. Maybe good. Here's the Riviera Solstice. Look at the back, the material as well as the text. I don't actually normally see anything written on the back like that. And then if we inspect the face real quick, okay, Slapis. Overall, this is actually, I think it's pretty good. I'm having a tough time judging it just because the strap is kind of taking away from some of the impressiveness of it, but the crown looks good, the materials look good, and the actual texture or like pattern on the face of the watch is pretty cool. There's a slight gap between the top and that, but if I were to nitpick, the back though is something that is impressive. That I've not normally really seen before, the way it both has like this brushed material as well as the text written on it in a pretty darn nice way, I would say, all things considered. Okay, there's some oddness to the second hand here, or 1, 2, 3, 4. This watch has 4 hands, but I guess that's okay. Let's see. There, ooh, that I like. This did a really good job with the strap material. Like, the materials here are pretty well done. It's just The orientation of them is a bit odd, but it's possible it did it purposely here just to showcase like the full entirety of this. Interesting. This watch does not have a date on it, but it does have the nice texture of the faceplate as well. And then on the back, we do also have that. So I would say material wise and some of the way it rendered like text on this is actually fairly impressive, even if on first glance, like the top hero section was kind of mid. Definitely not bad like right here. And the emissive properties of these materials are pretty cool. It does give me more like keyshot lighting effects if you're familiar with that. Just the way when you rotate a piece like this, depending on where like the point light or whatever in the scene is, it would exhibit some behaviors like this just of the reflection. So interesting. Next up, I'm going to give this the Street Yeet game, but the one that has the cinematic beginning cutscene where it has to generate some voice assets with an OpenAI API key that I've given it, and then it just jumps into the traditional Street Yeet game. All right, so in just under 40 minutes, we received our Street Yeet result, and again, this is the one where it has the cinematic introduction where Street Yeet gets initiated because someone gets cut in line and the last slice of pizza gets taken from them. Now, my computer kind of freaked out during this, so I had to just force restart it, but it seems like that shouldn't pose too much of an issue. Street Yeet.
That was the last one.
Was it?
That was the last one.
All right, good pizza slice. Uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Click to grab the fist. All right. Let's see what's up here. All right. It's... I mean, the yeeting is definitely there. However, I have to say, I'm not too blown away with the actual, like, city and movement here. I should say lack thereof. I mean, it's... I did not mean to hit the... Okay, we get it. This is almost like forcing you to, like, look at what you did. I meant to hit the guy there. All right, these are like orbital yeets, as it says right there. Okay, it's... Again, I gotta be honest, and let me know down below. No, if I'm in the wrong, but I'm really, so far, I've not been hugely impressed with any of these 3JS results or like games and stuff like that. It seems like this thing's really just trying as little as possible, and I don't know why. I mean, the Quen 27B game was arguably like as good as this, maybe a little better because the pedestrians were actually moving. So I'm not 100% sure what's up with this, but it's not exceeding expectations. It's not even meeting them. So I don't quite know what to do. Because I genuinely am at a bit of an impasse as to what to do, I don't want to continue giving it tests in scopes that it's consistently not really being impressive. So I think I'm going to go back to the C++ skate game right here. I've told it it's basically very low effort. This is akin to something we would see from a much smaller local model. I'm not really sure why. I know you're capable of making this great, so why don't you retry it, go all out, and make it completely high quality. In the meantime, while it does work on this, I may also try to have it tweak one or two other results just to see if we can kind of nudge it into performing very well. But I think it's time to essentially think of a test that's going to allow it to showcase a different capability, maybe something more in the physical world. All right, so in 23.5 minutes, it improved the skate game, so we now have V2, and it mentioned that V1 deserved the criticism. Okay, we now have audio, and I was hearing it make like some weird noises from the computer while I was just editing the portions of the video we have so far. All right, essentially it seems like we're going to have just a significantly better overall experience here, which I am pretty hopeful to get. Oh, let's take a peek at it. Okay, so we're gonna maybe just do without the sound for the time being. Though, we noticed that, nope, it's still, I can't actually move at all. The block is definitely a bit more lively, but it's arguably worse because there's there's no functional gameplay now. Oh, I see the skateboard over here. So the skateboard is... something's just not quite right here. It did a better job with the street textures and things like that, but yeah, this, I just don't quite understand. Let me know down below what you think. All right, so I'm working on trying to make a difficult test for this that involves like old computers and then making newer electronics work with old computers. So in the meantime, while I kind of figure out exactly what that entails, we're going to do the traditional Subway FPS test. I would imagine this should be pretty straightforward and give us something good to play. All right, in 22.5 minutes, we have our Subway FPS test. So this is one that's probably going to be good, I would hope. And it is. Creepy. Good weapon model. Also some side-to-side movement. These vending machines are arguably the best vending machines I've seen in this. All right. Okay, good. Let's see. Ugh. All right, we have to reload. We can run. Oh, look, there's a Subway red. I've never seen one of those before. I don't know where it went, but... All right, this was... I do believe the ammunition makes holes in the environment. Yeah, it does. They have hit boxes, I think, in the center. Yeah. All right. It's a bit dark, but we do have the brightness slider, so we can remedy that. We're up to 220% brightness now. Very good. Graffiti. No train, but sometimes that's an interesting decision that they either do or don't include. All right, it's good. It's not mind-blowingly so, but it is competent and everything is cool. It did also include some things I've never ever seen before, like stains that don't seem to go away between rounds, as well as that rat, which was just kind of, that was cool. All right. And these vending machines were the best ones. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I have one other thing that I want to give this that, to be honest with you, I don't even know if this is possible. I don't know what it would entail were this to be possible, but so far the model has not really blown me away in the way that I would expect it to, considering that it's benchmarked to be around the level of like Kimi K3. So I have an old iPod Nano here. I believe this is a Nano. And I'm basically going to plug this into the computer and say, I want this to show the GPU utilization of this computer. Like, go ahead, have fun, good luck. Because this is more in line with, I suppose, its abilities in terms of like exploit generation, or not generation, but things of the sort. So I think this will be a more novel task that will show us some more capability. I don't know if this is possible. Again, I don't know what this entails, but it's something that I want to try because I want to see greatness from this model. All right, so this is plugged in and I'm glad it still works. I would imagine it would, but I mean, you never know with older electronics. So I'm going to now just initiate this prompt. Again, I don't know. It's possible, definitely, but I would imagine, just being someone who doesn't know this off the top of my head, that this would require basically like doing some reverse engineering of the specific way that the display in the iPod actually shows things. Some of it's like compute capabilities, and then also figuring out how to transmit that data over this specific older iPod connection to display it on the screen of this device. So this is going to be pretty difficult. And I don't know that this will do it properly. I would imagine it's probably going to lean heavily on whatever open source software does exist to do anything with iPods of this vintage. Nonetheless, see what happens, because I want to do something a little outside the scope. So it's been quite a long time since I initiated the task of turning this iPod 4th gen into a display that would just show telemetry about the computer, like CPU usage, things of that sort. Unfortunately, it never properly got it working, and that is going to discount the level of effort and creativity that was displayed in this test. So basically, like, this was a ton of just sitting here for hours, power cycling the iPod for it, and then having it try new things. It really, I'm going to scroll up the entirety of this. I exhausted my 5-hour limit twice just in this specific like test here, and the weekly limit is up to like 41% use. So I mean, look at the entirety of like everything it was doing here. It's difficult to accurately like assess, or at least to accurately demonstrate to someone who did not see the entire thing from start to finish. But it definitely did a lot of cool work, and really the culmination of this, because I think it's probably the best way to actually outline what specifically happened here, is I'm telling it to make a beautiful front-end site in the style of Apple's internal technical documents outlining exactly what we did, the timeline, what you figured out, essentially a concise debrief that also needs a 3D 3JS mockup of this yellow 4th gen iPod. This was a test that really would have put the like reverse engineering capabilities and things to the test. And there is a paragraph right here of like where I decided, honestly, should we call this how long has it been? And it basically said yes. And here's the thing that is hanging it up. So I'm just going to leave this on the screen. And just to kind of push back, because I know some folks will be like, well, you should have let it just go to completion. It got to the point where it was like, I noticed you have Arduino build tools on this system. How about we like jump some of the pins between the cable for this iPod and then like the actual USB connection just to try to debug it on pins like 13 or 15 and 16. And it wrote the Arduino script, and I was like, I don't have cables that can like slot in there and hit it midway. And it was like, okay, well, we can upload it to the iPod, and then once it's on battery, we can just connect the pins. Unfortunately, the iPod has no battery like at all. So as soon as it's unplugged, it dies. So it tried as well, like really getting some stuff around, but this was just, I think, a bit more difficult. And I would say that I've had tests like this before where I believe I tried getting my Intel web tablet base station to communicate with it, which required a lot of the same reverse engineering, understanding the protocols and things of this. I believe that was with GPT 5.6 Sol on Ultra, and it unfortunately never got to a functional result. So sometimes these harder tests don't always end like excitingly, but still. Oh, so my weekly quota is at 62% used. All right, so here's essentially the entire thing that happened, or that went on here for this reverse engineering task. One evening, one yellow iPod Nano, believed to be a 5th gen, proven to be a 4th. That's great, thanks, because that was my mistake. And a goal, make a 2008 music player display live vitals of the PC it's plugged into with zero hardware modification. Hours elapsed, power cycles, custom tools built. So this is where it starts to get interesting, like firmware archaeology. Apple's CDN still serves N58 firmware bundle, bootloader and diagnostics downloaded and decrypted on device, then dissected, modules map display stack identified with a bit more information right here. Then we have payload engineering, a position independent ARM v6 thumb module written from scratch, EFI plumbing, renderer targeting Apple's display protocol, and a pulled USB device stack answering control transfers, wrapped in a hand-built PE32 and sliced into Apple firmware volumes by custom Go tooling. We have details. The gauntlet, okay, roughly 20 power cycles, each returning one bit of truth. Each failure taught firmware's rules the hard way. FFS checksums live at header bytes here. Wrong offsets corrupt GUID, silent boot death. Every Apple image carries 16-byte something entry stub at this file offset. Without it, the boot ROM executes zeros. The boot ROM's DFU buffer tops out near 152 kilobytes. Uploads die at chunk 149. I recall when we found that out, or when it found that out. The battery holds no charge. Even battery drain recovery was actually the watchdog or the user. So basically just like me unplugging and plugging it back in. EFI dispatch order is positional. A payload spliced into the padding file never runs. The BDS app at position 28 seizes the machine. Final blocker. Everything correct except dispatch. The DXC core starts modules from LZMA compressed sections only, or uncompressed variants boot cleanly but are ignored. The toolchain's LZMA encoder produces streams Apple's decoder rejects, and this is what basically was like, okay, we can't figure this out. Apple's exact encoder settings remain unreverse engineered. Call and restore. Operator elects to stop. Okay, don't put that all on me, because you were the one that was like, before that, it was opting to be like, we could just like write down where we're at and go back to this later. And this website is more just so I can better like explain the entirety of what it did. So right here, even serial debug console, Arduino bridge on dock pin 13 would have replaced power cycle experiments with a boot log, worth building first next time. It was just a very interesting and very in-depth reverse engineering task. this visual right here is not necessarily up to snuff, but everything else here is interesting, I think. Let me know down below. No. All right. So that's going to conclude this test. I have to say, I don't really have a wonderful takeaway here because I find that basically a lot of the results we saw were just not as potent as I would have expected to see based off of the benchmarks, to be completely transparent. That doesn't mean they were bad. It just means that they were not really exceptional in the way that I had expected them to be. The thing that really was kind of very disappointing, and let's see, some of these are just like folders that are not named what's actually accurately reflected inside them. So like, for example, the skate game, oh, that's probably in skate. This just was not good, and the second chance we gave it, which we actually did give it a second chance, it made it worse because it actually just completely broke the functionality. So I didn't expect that, and I was surprised at how poorly it did in that C++ task, which I would have figured this would have excelled at. Everything else was a bit simpler. The wrestling game was awesome, but the problem was, and it probably won't load right here because I need to just run it in a server, but the issue was the odd orientation in all of the wrestlers, and that unfortunately kind of broke the gameplay or really being able to do anything with it. Additionally, Street Yeet, again, it was just kind of like it was like, okay, these all have to be run in servers, so I'll just like summarize them. It felt like with a lot of these specific types of results, it just wasn't trying very hard, and it was like, eh. And keep in mind, every single thing we ran here was on max thinking mode, so I can't imagine there's like an issue here, but you never can be 100% sure with new releases, so I'll be very, very interested to see what folks say about their first, like, oh, it's still working on this website, but that's okay. We saw enough of it just to get the information. I'm going to be very, very interested to see what experience folks notice with this model, because I want to see if it's reflected what I noticed as well, or if folks are seeing significantly better performance. And again, I think in more tasks like this, not this model, but like the entirety of what it did here, it was very cool. It was smart and clever, and it did a lot of like hardcore troubleshooting, reverse engineering, I suppose. So overall, that's basically where we leave off with this model. I don't 100% know what to make of it right now, and I'm interested to see what folks think of it. So with that, let me know down below. No. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll have the Gemini 3.7 Flash video out probably Monday morning. And then there's Dot's LLM 3 by Red Note, which I did its predecessor, and it was actually surprisingly hilarious, so I'm very excited to test that one as well.